everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and everybody who came today, thank you so much for coming. We are here out in Chautauqua County, New York. This is basically the most farthest south and west you can get in New York State. We are probably closer to Cleveland than we are Rochester, would be my guess. We are pretty close. We're out there. We're right almost close to the border of Pennsylvania. But I come out here often for a very important reason. We are a very diverse state. And those of you watching may not know that, but New York State is a very diverse state. Chautauqua County is not Erie County. It's not Hamilton County. It's not Queens County. It's a different county, and that's a good thing. And for a group of people, Americans, who speak so much about diversity, we often don't respect the diversity of our own state. It is a very diverse state with different people who think different ways, who have different values and prioritize things differently. And that's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a human thing. And we really should not be thinking one size fits all. One city, whether that city's Albany or DC, should not be running the entire state. Each state should be, each group of people, each county should be doing much more of what it wants. More money should be staying in the county. More decisions should be made locally. I talked about that for 2 years straight as I crossed this state, and I still believe it's true. Without question, the idea of local control is more important than ever. Many of us are looking at the COVID situation right now. Many may be asking, Larry, where's your mask? I'm outside and more than 6 feet away, guys. I'm being good. I'm doing my social distancing rules, but I do have one. I keep my mask in my pocket when I need it, so I am being good. But why does this matter? We all sat back and waited for a centralized control answer when COVID hit. We've been trained for decades as a culture that when bad things happen, we wait for daddy government or mama government to give us an answer. And we did. For those of you who are paying attention to me, what did I do? February and March, I was talking about a way of fixing this with localized control, no new taxes, and of course, no mandates. If we had done what I had talked about in February and March, by now, our economy will be open and we know exactly what the real data is. We wouldn't have had masks are so important, the world's going to end. No, masks aren't important at all. Don't wear them. No, please stock up on masks. No, don't buy masks. They're worthless. No, give masks to the people who are first responders. No, don't. We wouldn't have had that. We would have actually had data. We would have used government, but we should have used government, which is as a central repository. People like calling 911 when they have a problem or 411 for information. So why aren't they going to the government for the central repository of information? However, not just government information. I am very happy that government will provide information that it believes is true. Please keep doing that, government. Nice. What I don't like is that government says only our way is correct. No one else's way is correct. And if you don't do our way, we will punish you. The right way of handling this was to create some form, website, app, phone number, whatever the case may be, where here's all the government guidelines to handle COVID as recommended by the CDC and the FDA. But not just that. Here is what other people think are correct. Here is what a holistic view might think. Here is what the Doctors Association might think. And now each of you can now pick. Do what you feel is appropriate in your world. But not just that. I don't now take my government agents and now cross the state and then see, oh, he doesn't have, let's punish. I don't do that. Instead, I go to my retail outlets and I use my government agent to say, does she follow guidelines? She does, government stamp. She doesn't follow guidelines, no government stamp. That's it. No punishment. The AMA wants to do it, they do it too. If anybody else will do it, they do it too. And now who decides what establishment to go in? You do. The consumer does. I don't have to shut down one business. You'll shut them down for me because you won't go in. You won't go. And when you don't go, they'll collapse. And the businesses will on their own create the right protocols, because the most important thing we're missing of all of this is looking for the future. We're not ready for the next one. And there will be a next one. I don't know when that will be. Is it next year, 10 years from now? I don't know. It's going to happen. And there'll be one worse than this. That's for sure. It's going to happen. What is our answer? Shut the country down every 2 years? Is that our answer? No, our answer should be protocols. The right protocols to survive in this environment. I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps. And when I was in the Marine Corps, this is in the 80s. I give my age away again. You're right, I always do this, don't I? I give my age away again. I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps in the 80s. This is back when there was the Soviet Union, right? We were worried about nuclear threats, tactical nukes, biological attacks, chemical attacks. What did they teach us? You have to be able to function in a contaminated environment. The war doesn't end because the battlefield is contaminated. Well, our lives shouldn't end because our world is contaminated. We have to find the right protocols to survive the right way and function. That's what we should have been doing. We had done that in February or March. By now, we'd have all the data we need. Our economy would be back up and running. We'd know what actually works, what type of masks work, what type of testing works. There'd be no doubt. There wouldn't be this, oh, they're bad, he's bad, she's bad. We would know. We'd have the data there. A libertarian will give you a solution. That's why this movement is so important. Even during COVID, even during a pandemic, people say, well, during a pandemic, there's no libertarians. The reverse is true. There should be nothing but libertarians. Nothing but libertarians. What did we get instead? We got the government waiting to say, well, he's going to have an answer. No, she'll have an answer. No, he'll have an answer. No, they'll have an answer. They'll have an answer. Someone else is going to have an answer. Well, the answer came late, if there even is one. Is there even one now? No answer. The answer looks like the answer is lock it all down again. That's all we know. Government knows, hit it with a stick. It's a problem, hit it with a stick. It didn't work, hit it again. Didn't work, use 2 sticks. Didn't work, bigger sticks. That's all we know. That's all we know. I'm saying we can actually change the environment to make things better. And now's the election coming. Election's coming. What's everybody's campaign slogan if they're on the left or the right? I'm not him, I'm not her. That's the campaign. You got to vote for me. I'm not him. Yeah, I know I killed a guy, but he killed 3. I'm clearly the better choice. That's where we are now. I don't want that. I'm running around this state letting people know that it's very important that we think about voting gold this year. Think about voting gold this year. In New York State specifically, we have fusion voting, where you come up with someone who's running on 2 lines, Libertarian and Democrat, Libertarian and Republican, Libertarian and Conservative. You can do that. If you find that, vote for them on that line. Vote for them on the third party line. It matters. Why? Because I know all of you. Some of you out there are Republicans or Democrats. You're not going to change. I get it. I'm okay with that if you're not. No worries. I want you all to turn Libertarian. Please turn Libertarian. But you don't have to. But I do want you to realize that if you want better candidates, better Libertarian candidates, but also better Republicans and better Democrats, the only way you get better Democrats and better Republicans is by having a strong third option. By when I say, I know I killed a person, but he killed 3, you can go, but he killed none. Huh. Let's go with that guy instead. He killed none. As soon as that happens, that I'm not him doesn't work. I'm not her doesn't work. Support gold this year, not next year, but this year. This is what I want. Now, I want to bring up somebody who may have a different take on what I said, and I'm totally okay if you do. I'm going to bring up the sheriff. I want to bring up Mr. Jim Quatron. Please, thank you, everybody.
A different take. I'm not sure if I have a different take. Quite honestly, until 2018, I had not heard of the Libertarian Party. And it was at the Chautauqua County Fair that I got to meet Andrew and had a little bit of a conversation with him. And I've met Garrett a few times and quite a few times and talked to him quite a few times through Facebook. But what really resonated as you were talking, Larry, was the point of solving the problems within our local area. And you know, so some of you have heard me talk a little bit or mention our Executive Order 203, which has been forced upon us by our governor to reinvent law enforcement, to reform law enforcement. And it's not so much the things that he is telling us to do, but it's how he's telling us to do it. Because the majority of those things, most police agencies were already doing. We're an accredited, sheriff's office is an accredited agency. So about 95% of the things that the governor mentioned, we have been already doing. One of my campaign promises that I feel that I followed through on it is reaching out to our community members to find out what's going on. The governor has told us that we have to do this by April 1st. I fear that what's going to happen is many law enforcement agencies will say, April 1st, I'm done. I no longer need to be reaching out to my community members. And we can't put a time frame on building relationships. And that's what we need to be doing within our community. If we want to solve problems, if we want to come up with solutions, we need to be working with our community and continual building of those relationships, finding out what we're doing in our community, what is needed. Because what's needed in Jamestown is different than what's needed in Clymer, which is different, which is needed in Silver Creek, and definitely which is different than Albany or New York City. So, but I thank you for having the opportunity. I'm kind of showing off my Cincinnati red shirt. I wasn't expecting to speak, but I go Big Red. So thank you.
Exactly what you said. Yes, I love what you said. Right. The problem that we have is, again, when it's just red versus blue, what happens? There's a problem. What do? Knee-jerk reaction. Punish cops. Yeah. Punish law enforcement. First thing, punish law enforcement. Right. Defund the police. Right. First thing. Feels good to yell that. Defund the police. Well, get them. Feels good. What's your plan? We hadn't thought of that. We hadn't thought of that. Just get those cops. We hadn't thought of that. And it feels good. I know. I live in New York City. We defunded our police force. We took $1 billion out of our police force with no plan. By the way, overnight. But it's a massive police force. Those who don't know, there are 40,000 cops in New York City. 40,000. Yes, it's a small army. There's a lot of cops in New York City. And our budget was already $6 billion just for the police force. So we took $1 billion off of that. Still massive. But we took it out. No plan. Just let's get rid of it. Terrible idea. What are libertarians saying? We yelling defund the police? We aren't. Now, don't get me wrong. Libertarians hear defund. We go, what? We like defunding. We do like that idea. But we want it with a real plan. So what I talked about, for those of you who remember, I talked about the idea of facts. Remember my facts plan? FAQS. To your point, Sheriff, I wanted to create a framework for each law enforcement organization to be able to modify itself as it sees fit. I don't want to attack all law enforcement. Why would I do that? I want to give a framework for each community to be policed how it wants to be policed. Mm-hmm. Policing in Manhattan is very different than policing in Fredonia. Very different type of policing. And I don't want to be the one who decides how to do that. I want you to. Facts is FAQS. F stands for Family Law Unit. That means you have a split group of officers who deal with family law. Domestic disputes, kids, things like that. You can add now a community component to that. Probably local churches, chaplains. That's their job. Bring them in. Why can't the police force have local chaplains? Right? Of course. You can now tweak that. Are you having a problem with domestic abuse in your county? Turn it up a little bit. Right? Is it more of just conversations that a chaplain should be involved in? Turn the civilian part on more. Turn the cop part up more. Whatever's appropriate, you can shift. That's not what someone can do. That's a way of making it work. That actually makes sense. A is active policing. That's out there getting people who are doing crimes. That's that part. That needs a whole different level of equipment and training than family law. Different level of training. So why can't you break that up? But more importantly, that can also have a civilian component or a community component. Neighborhood watches. Odds of you getting the house wrong, very slim when you have neighborhood watches. But not just that, it deals with the emotional aspect. What does that mean? If you're policing a community of color, the community watch is filled with people of color. It deals with that issue directly, right? Your community now can work directly with its police force. Why not? Easy day. Q is quality of life. That's things like writing tickets, noise pollution, things like that. You live in a city, quality of life, critical. Huge part of what we do. Huge part. Live in a less urban area, not a big of a deal for you. You turn that down or turn it up. But why can't quality of life also have a community aspect? Why can't a VFW be the place you call to be a dispatcher? Why can't you do that to give cops a break? less paperwork for them. I heard that continue when I talked about rural cops. Paperwork being a horrible thing. Then a really admin really taking up time. Why can't you have a community aspect? Deals with the admin part. No budget, volunteers. They'd be happy to do it. Last, social work. That's the one with things like homelessness, drug addiction, things like that. Again, separate level, separate type of policing. And also, why can't that community piece be part of the local college? You've got kids studying psychology. Why aren't they in the field? Teach them stuff right away. Here's how you deal with this. Put them in the field too. Why can't you do that? You can make that and tweak that and turn that in any way you see fit. But most important, as I said, I was a Marine. Cops do too much. I hear that all the time. Every problem that happens, put the cops on it. You break it down to 4, now each division can deal with it. But more importantly, if I got to have a cop in active policing for 2, 3, 4 years, maybe he or she shouldn't be on that beat for 2, 3, 4 years. Maybe it's too much. The stuff they see, the things they deal with. I was a Marine for many years. You don't keep a Marine in the front line too long. Keep him in the front line for a while, you rotate him back to the world. You put him back into the field, you rotate him back to the world. Why can't each individual law enforcement department have a rule? You spend 2 years, 3 years, whatever is the number appropriate in active duty, and then go write tickets for a year. Go do family law for a year. Get off the street, go do something for us for a year. Now, if you ask a cop to do that, ask them, so many cops are gonna go, I don't need that. You know what I'm talking about. I don't need that. I know Marines do the same thing. I don't need help. I don't need that. I'm good. I don't need anything. But if you make it a rule, you only get 2 years, 3 years, whatever is appropriate. That's what you get. Then you have to do a year off of the front line. Now cops get to recharge. They pull them off the line, they get to recharge. And then back into the front line when they want to. You do something like that, create that framework. That's the kind of thing you should give our police force. Here's a framework. Tweak that the way you want. You can decide how to make things work. As you remove government, you have to add community. You have to. You have to add community. And we've spent too much time, and COVID has shown us this. We did not wait for community to step up. We sat back waiting for government to step up. It's the wrong answer. I want to bring up somebody else, someone who's in government. So I guess we're going to blame you, I guess, for that, right? It's all your fault. It's all your fault now. So your state senate, state senator here from Chautauqua County. Make sure I get your name right. Tom Colony. You gave me the wrong card.
Did I give the wrong card? Oh, I'm so sorry. How about that?
You gave me the wrong card.
I did. It's a magic trick. Sorry.
It is a magic. It is a magic trick. Sorry.
Here we go. My
Oh,
mistake.
he gave me the wrong card. Sorry. George Rello. Thank you, everybody. Yes. There we go. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Larry, thank you very much for being here and traveling around the state. Thank you to the Libertarian Party for the support last year, and then I ran in a special election. So again, this year. So I appreciate the support of the Libertarian Party. Individual liberty. That's an important thing, especially right now. In my first year as a state senator, really in my first few months, we faced this COVID crisis. The first thing they did is they pulled us into a room late one night and threw a bill in front of us that was going to expand the governor's power dramatically. And they tied it to funding to fight the COVID virus. This is back in March 3rd. We didn't know what was going to happen. I had been in the Senate for just not even 3 months. And I looked at the bill, and it happens in Albany. They love to throw things out there, and then you have no time to do any due diligence, and then they want you to vote on it. And the threat was, if you don't vote for this, your people are going to know that you voted against funding for battling the COVID virus. But that's only this much.
You hate grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. That was only this much of the bill. The rest of it was sweeping change to the governor's powers, including not only the ability to suspend laws, which is common in a crisis situation, but to write his own laws, to suspend state law and local law, any law. If he didn't like a local zoning law in Chautauqua County and in the town of Hanover where I live, he has the absolute right to suspend that law as part of the COVID crisis. So I read through this, and as a 10-year member of county government, including county executive and a business owner, I said, no, we can't do this. I was one of only 4 senators that voted against that bill that night. And now we're seeing this play out. I said, this is horrible government overreach. I stood up on the floor and I said, this is the very definition of dictatorial power. And we're seeing that right now. The sheriff brought up Executive Order 203. He's actually done a couple hundred executive orders as part of this crisis. That order, which he has the power, the teeth of that order, he can do any executive order he wants. He can tell the sheriff's department, every police agency in New York State, you need to reform. But the teeth in that order comes from his power under COVID, because he is threatening to unilaterally defund police agencies that don't follow it. Now, you might think that's a good idea, but it's not going through the proper steps. It is the governor himself deciding that he doesn't like the plan that Sheriff Quatron came up with, for example, here in Chautauqua County, and he is, without going through the state legislature, is going to pull state funding. That is a dictator move right there, plain and simple. So you might think the governor is doing, a lot of people think he's doing a great job in the response. I tend to disagree.
I don't think anyone here thinks
Yeah. But yes. The bottom line is, folks, this is the loss of our liberty. And it does not come as a flood. It comes as a trickle. And that's what's happening. They're seeing how far they can push us. What can they make us do? And do I believe we should be safe? And do we should protect those folks that are at high risk? Absolutely. Do I believe that it's good leadership to shut down our economy and have no other plan than to stick your hand out and ask the federal government for a bailout? Because that's what the governor has done. He wants to prove that he is the most powerful and the strongest and toughest governor in America with his plan that shut down the government. That's not good leadership. Good leadership is a balance, is striking a balance to ensure that our economy will survive. He has no thought for that. His thought is, how can he make himself look like the toughest governor in America? That's not leadership. Okay. And that's the problem with what we're going through. It goes back to what I was saying before and what you've spoken about, individual liberty. It doesn't mean that you can harm someone else. No one there thinks that. But it means that you have the right to make those decisions.
Yes.
And that's what we're lacking here in New York State. And that's the problem. As you said, we look to government, big government, to answer our questions for us. That's not the path. And I think about very often, the words of Benjamin Franklin, that those that would sacrifice essential liberty to exchange for a little temporary security deserve neither. Right. And he said it many different times, many different ways. He said sometimes you get neither, but the bottom line is our founding fathers saw this coming. And this is not new. This has happened throughout history in many horrible regimes, the Nazi regimes. You mentioned the Soviet Union. We've seen this throughout history. We've demonized the police. We've said that these are things we've demonized a lot of people in order to achieve an agenda, and that's what's going on. And I appreciate the fact that the Libertarian Party has stood up for individual liberty. I appreciate the fact that here in New York State you're under attack, and I appreciate the fusion voting that allows those folks who may not want to vote for a particular person on a particular line another option, and that's worth preserving here in New York State. So thank you for going around. Thank you for being here, Scott.
Thank you. So yes, exactly what I mean, right? The more we can actually, the libertarian movement is the healing movement for this country. I'm not exaggerating. Here's what I know for sure. If you are a lifelong Democrat, you don't want to vote for Republican. If you are a lifelong Republican, you don't want to vote for a Democrat. You've been taught for decades they're the bad ones. You don't want to do it. But you will vote Libertarian. That I know. Those of you who watched my campaign when I crossed this state the first 2 times, what did I do? I would go to every event live and ask this question. How many people in this room now or in the last 2 years have been a registered Democrat? Hands will go up. How many people in this room now within the last 2 years were registered Republican? Hands will go up. How many were now or last 2 years registered but neither? Hands will go up. That only happens in the libertarian event. Democrat event filled with Democrats. Republican event filled with Republicans. Libertarian event, all of them. We are the ones looking for something else, which means we are the unifiers. You might say, but Larry, you're never going to win 51% of the House or 51% of the Assembly or 51% of Congress, 51% of whatever. You're right. We don't have to. Imagine if you would. If there were just 3, 4 Libertarian senators. 3 or 4. Not 100, not 50, 3 or 4. We would control the Senate.
Yeah.
We'd control the Senate. We are the swing vote.
Right.
And that works in most states. Imagine if there were 5 libertarian state senators in New York. 5. Just 5. We control the Senate, the swing vote. And now every time you say we want to give money but take power, blah, blah, we can step in and go, no, 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 it comes out of we don't vote for. That comes out of we don't vote for. All of a sudden now we're the brokers. But not just that. You know this, you're in it. You reach across the aisle, half of your people will fight you. Off the bat, even if it's for their own good. You can't reach across the aisle. Once you say, I'm talking to the other, what? They're the evil ones. You can't talk to them. So don't. You can use us as the conduit because we can talk to both. It doesn't matter. We are the way to peace. We are the way to healing. We are the way to reconciliation. I want you to think for a second. If Trump wins or Trump loses, is our country united? No. No, it isn't. If Trump wins, if Trump loses, our country is not united. How do we bring it back together? A third party. I can't tell you enough how important it is to vote gold. Local, state, whatever, national, vote gold. You can do it this year. You should do it this year. Speaking of voting gold, I actually have someone here who's running for Congress, federal level, who's running for Congress from this area here. Were you born in this county? Oh, sorry, born in Pennsylvania, but now here. I wasn't sure if you were born here or not. Yes. So yes, born in PA, but now here, the man himself, running for Congress, Andrew Kulsty.
Hi, I'm Andrew Kulsty. I'm the chair of the Chautauqua County Libertarian Party and also the Libertarian Party candidate for New York's 23rd Congressional District. And I've been a Libertarian for 10 years and very involved in the party now. And I decided to run this year and get more involved. But I wanna ask one question. Has the government been getting bigger and bigger?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're solving all the problems, aren't we?
All solved.
No.
All solved. It's utopia.
Government has grown exponentially over more and more and more, and we don't see these problems being solved. And a lot of people think that government is the answer, or the left's version of government is the answer, or the right's version of government is the answer. Well, they think they have the answers, but government keeps getting bigger. You'll have, one side saying we have $1 trillion we want to spend. It's going to make things better. And the other side says we're going to spend $1 trillion this way, not that way, this way. We're going to make things better. So they fight, and then they decide, you know what? Let's do both and spend $2 trillion, and we get everything. But it ends up making things worse and worse and worse. And what you see is this left-right division. We're becoming more and more divided. There's a lot of charts that show the way people vote on different things. It's becoming more and more polarizing to the point where we can't, it's like Larry said, we can't talk to someone on the other side, otherwise you're evil. Trump to the left, Trump is the most evil. Yes. We got to get rid of him. It's the end of the world if he's president. We're gonna have riots in the street. Who's president? And Joe Biden to the right, Joe Biden is the most evil. We're gonna have socialism, and it becomes a point where both sides gets, and it's a minority of both those sides. Between Hillary and Trump in 2016 of the primary voters, between them two, 9% of the primary voters voted for either Hillary or Trump. It's a very small amount that is, the loudest, where most people in the middle are becoming more and more independent. And I think that's where the Libertarian Party can move forward. I think we're close, or we're either at 50 state ballot access for George Jorgensen to get on the ballot in all 50 states. We did this with Gary Johnson in 2016, and we're the only party that continues to get 50 state ballot access. We've had to learned for years how to do that. In fact, there's a post today by our national chair. He posted about Kanye West, trying to get on the ballot in so many states, and he's having trouble with ballot access. He's finding it hard, even a celebrity, someone who's nationally known, having trouble getting on the ballot. And now we're only able to do that. Jo Jorgensen may not be nationally known until she started running, but we've had to fight years and years and years to get on the ballot, to fight lawsuits. We're even doing so in New York. And we've learned a lot about it. We're able to get 50 state ballot access despite all these things. And that just shows that the Libertarian Party is not going away. The Green Party has been kicked off ballots. And, they're. Yep.
Talk about you.
Yeah. So when I came into the Libertarian Party, I saw this, left versus right. And so I saw the Libertarian Party as a way to, as a more efficient way of looking at things. And when it comes down to, I've been thinking a lot of the philosophical background, where when someone gets involved in politics, they want to, advance human prosperity, but the other element is also making things more efficient, efficient use of resources. Of course, bringing about more prosperity, we want to make things better, we want to do good. And then the other side of that is, we only have a limited amount of resources, a limited amount of funding, a limited amount of this and that, and we want to use it, to enough, because there's, a lot of resources. We don't have enough resources, so we got to use our current resources, the best amount of way. So when it comes to that, so I like to look at things from the root of the problem. We can't just, look at the surface and often, let's throw money at it, because that's worked, as well as out-of-box ideas. When it comes to the root of the problem, I think of something like minimum wage. There's this fight, do we raise the minimum wage? Do we not raise the minimum wage? And I say, okay, why do you want to raise the minimum wage? Well, they'll say, well, because the cost of living is going up. My rent is going up. I can't afford my rent. I can't afford healthcare. I can't afford education. And I said, well, wait a second. So you want an increase of the minimum wage? Well, why is your healthcare going up? Why is your education going up? Why is your rent going up? Let's look at those. So instead of then looking at whether or not we raise the minimum wage, because it's only a temporary thing, and then they're going to say fight for 15 now. We raise it, they're going to say fight for 20, fight for 25, and it's just going to be a never-ending process. We need to get to the root of the problem. So if one of the root of the problem is, you can't afford your rent, maybe there's some zoning issues. I know in some areas there's restrictive zoning laws that lead to developers unable to develop certain land, so it keeps the existing supply up. If we relax those laws, we increase the supply, there's going to be more competition, prices are going to go down, people are going to be able to afford their rent. You do the same thing with other areas as well. And everything's tied together. But when I talk about something like besides the minimum wage and zoning laws and healthcare, for example. So why are healthcare prices so high? Well, when you can you call the doctor up or call the hospital up and say, hey, I'm going to have some sort of operation and or this, or how much, I remember there's this one video, this guy was going around, he was calling different hospitals because his wife was expecting, they were expecting a child. He was calling different hospitals to get the idea of what the prices were for, it's a standard procedure. Hospitals have been doing that for years. You go in, you have the baby. He was trying to get an estimate, and they didn't know how much it costs, because you have to negotiate with insurance companies, and they have their high prices, and it gets to a point where, like, okay, well, your healthcare is high because the cost isn't really seen. I would like to see the charge master made public. You start posting prices, people are going to start looking around and saying, okay, maybe they're trying to profit so much on them, it's going to put public pressure to put them down. But a lot of these things, if we get to the these out of box ideas and basically just getting to the root of the problem, not look at the surface. And I think both sides can take what they you know, where we have common ground, because there's going to be places where the far left and the far right have common ground. And then as we get away from our most divisive, you know, our you know, where we slightly disagree and then we disagree a little more, if we start where we have common ground, you know, then the conversation can move forward that way. So I think it's very important that we start talking more about these ideas, getting to the root of the issue, and you know, moving forward to there. But I'll turn it back to Larry. My website is KolsteeForCongress.com. You can also find me at Facebook, Facebook.com/Andrew Kulsty. Thank you.
Thank you. So a lot of the stuff that he was talking about was really important. He was talking about actual solutions. He wasn't talking about I'm the other, so you know I'm not the other, so vote for me. And that's an important piece. And when you think about something, again, whether Trump wins or Trump loses, regardless of the outcome, there are going to be tens of millions of unhappy Americans, regardless of who wins. Tens of millions. Where are they going to go? To us, if we're there for them. To us, if we're open to them. Because their other options are checking out or sporadic violence. Bad idea, both. Not good ideas. Both of those are the wrong answer, but come to us. But they can't come to us if they don't know who we are. They can't come to us if they don't think that we're a real team player. They can't come to us if we don't have infrastructure to accept them. But if we vote gold this year, we will have infrastructure. We will have impact. We will have enough knowledge people go, wait a minute, these guys are real. What are they about? When I first heard about the Libertarian Party, I heard Gary Johnson speak in 2012. That's when I first came. Gary Johnson, 2012. And I said, who are these guys? Librarians? These must be smart. Oh, libertarian. Oh, okay. That was my entire way of moving myself to the party. Well, librarians, cool. I like librarians. They're nice. But yes, but my point is that's how we get in. Now, I know some of you are going to say, but Larry, I got to vote for my guy because I got to vote Trump because I can't have Biden in, or I got to vote Biden because I can't have Trump in. I hear you. If you live in a state like I do, New York, and all of you here do, I have news for you. None of you have any say who the president is. I'm sorry. None of you have any say on who the president is. I think it's 27 electoral votes that we have. 27 electoral votes New York State has. They're going to Biden.
Really?
It's 3-1. 3-1 Democrat to Republican. And the people who would vote red have been leaving in droves for years. We're going to lose 2, not 1. We're going to lose 2 congressional seats next year. 2 congressional seats because so many New Yorkers have left. Think about this. Cuomo won with over 60% last time. Meanwhile, 1 million people left under his watch. This is a deep blue state, guys. It's going to Biden. Just like Oklahoma is going to Trump. That's going to happen. If you live in Oklahoma, I'm sorry, your vote's going to Trump. If you like Trump, good on you. If you don't like Trump, sorry. It's how it's working. If anybody here likes Biden, good on you. If you don't like Biden, sorry. Your votes are going to him. That's how it's going. So I'll ask you an important question. Knowing that's true, why would you vote for Trump or Biden? You're literally throwing your vote away. But if you vote for gold this year, you're voting for the future. You're voting for the future. You're voting to be able to put together the aftermath of this election, which we know is going to be a disaster. We all know this. It's going to be a disaster. How are we going to put it together? Who's going to piece it together? We are. Vote gold this year so we can piece this together. Vote gold to give people an opportunity to come to us. If we do well, if gold is has serious impact this year, people will look to us next year. They will. Lots will. So here's what I'm asking you. If you love your local guy or gal, you love them and they're great. They're Republican or Democrat. You're a Republican or Democrat. You want to vote for them, go ahead. Do it. You love them. They're good. Good on you. But is there a libertarian on that ballot? Are you voting straight red or straight blue? If you're voting straight red or straight blue and you're unhappy with this country, it's your fault. Let me say it again. If you're voting straight red or straight blue without looking for a libertarian, and you're unhappy with this country, it's your fault. Look in the mirror. You're the problem. If you keep rewarding bad behavior, they will keep doing the bad behavior. So stop rewarding the bad behavior and take your vote seriously and look on that ballot and vote red if you believe in that red person, and vote blue if you believe in that blue person. And whenever possible, vote gold. This year, more than ever. This is the most important election ever. They're right. So you got to vote gold. This is the time to do it at every level. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions or comments if you have any. They're live, so if you want to, you can drop F-bombs if you want to, but I wouldn't. So this is going live.
I will not drop an F-bomb.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, yes.
But if there's anything worse than a rhino, I think it would be a lino.
Okay.
I mean, a libertarian in name only.
Sure.
And I feel like in the past, I've seen some of them just because of name recognition.
Yes.
But I'm looking at you, and this is the first time I've heard you in person. I love what you're saying.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Don't control that libertarian in the first place. I love it that you got a plan.
Yes.
You got a plan.
Yes.
I love how you approach this COVID thing.
Yep.
That's the way it ought to be done. Great stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. You know, I'm complaining, and I want more people to be thinking about plans, right? So that's why I'm out here preaching them. I want to be the change that I want. I can't point my finger at you if I don't point it at me first. And I point it a lot. I do. But as long as I'm going to point it, I got to point it at me first, though, before I do that. So I'm pointing it at me first, so then I can point it at you. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? Guys, thank you so much for today. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you.